Hello everybody and welcome to Inside China Auto once again. We have got another beautiful car for you today. It's the Zeekr 001. Hello everybody, welcome back to Inside China Auto. As you can see today, we have yet another absolutely stunning car. This is the Zeekr 001, the first car from the Zeekr brand, which was launched in 2021. It's described by the company as a shooting brake coupe, which I'd never heard of before, but you can see it's a pretty bold way to get things started. And it's also an absolute beast. This thing is huge. It's just a smidge under 2 meters wide. It's almost 5 meters long. Inside, super luxurious, super spacious, and it's also incredibly powerful. Let's take a closer look. Okay, so here at the front we have a fairly familiar face to those who are in Europe, because Zeekr is a partner brand to Lynk Co, almost like their electric brand to Lynk Co's hybrid brand. That means you get the familiar family face, which includes these two raised sort of ridges here. These are daytime running lights. You get your main headlamps down here, connected by a black piece of plastic, and just a little bit of cooling for an electric car. Does need cooling though, because this car has twin 200 kilowatt motors on the front and the rear axle, so it's bloody powerful, let's put it that way. The giveaway for that power, of course, is these two huge power bulges here. Of course, there's no turbo under there, it's not necessary, it's electric, but this car has mega performance. Now, before I move on to the side, just want to draw your attention to these front wheels here that are turned. These are 265s by 40s and 22-inch alloys. They're absolutely enormous, and that's because, of course, it's got 400 kilowatts of power. That's over 500 horsepower, and it needs to put that on the ground. So you've basically got tyres that look like the rear tyres on a Porsche 911 on every corner of this car. Insane. Okay, so looking at the car inside profile, you can kind of see what Zeekr were talking about in terms of a shooting brake coupe. It's got a very rakish rear end here, more so I would say than a Mercedes-Benz CLS, but you've also got a really large passenger compartment. The wheelbase is 3 meters between the center point of both wheels, so there's loads of space inside there, and it's a very muscular look, starting with this really strong shoulder here coming off these lights that sort of stick out at the back. You've got a bit of detailing down here that looks kind of techy. You've also got a black roof, which makes it look a little bit slimmer, of course. You've got cameras here on the side, one on the back of the mirror and one on the side, which give you a really good 360-degree camera, probably one of the best on the market, I would say. Now, to get in, you've got flush door handles. All you have to do is touch it here, and the doors are electrically operated on the front and on the back. They also have radar sensors to make sure they don't open into obstacles, so you don't have to worry about your kids opening the door at the wrong time. To close them, you either simply press the button, pull the handle, or if you're the driver, press the brake pedal and the door will close. We've also got, of course, these really distinctive 22-inch alloys. We've got the sort of aero design with one segment coloured different from all the others. It is a very distinctive design, no doubt about it. So coming to the rear, you can see what I was talking about with these really muscular haunches. We've got a very 3D light unit here that kind of sticks out. You've got a full width 1.8 meter light bar across the back with 400 LEDs in there, individual plastic units that light up. They look absolutely beautiful at night, really attractive. You've got a large black spoiler up here, so underneath there the air can flow. You've got a rear facing camera on the top. You've also got a rear facing camera just under here, and then just by the Zeekr lettering you have, of course, the button for the electric boot lid opening. Decent space in there. You can also fold the seats flat 40-60, so there's loads of space. You can lower the floor a little bit, and little trick here, the Zeekr has a suspension on every corner, so if this load lip is a little bit too high for you, there's a switch just in here you can press to lower the boot lid down and help it make it easier to get heavy objects into the back of the car. You can of course return that by pressing the button up. As I said, you can fold the seats flat. There is a handle here just under the parcel shelf, and an electric boot lid, so it can go right back down again. Alright, so getting into the car, as I said, I don't have to touch anything with my hands. I can press the brake pedal, the door will close automatically. and my chair returns to its normal position. Now we've got quite a clean interior in here. We've got a lot of luxury materials. We've got microfiber material up here, really nice sort of towely texture all around the roof. Got a bit of Alcantara on top of the dashboard. You've got Napa leather everywhere else. These front seats are heated and cooled, which is great. In the rear, you get heated seats. Okay, so in the center here, we have a 15.4-inch screen through which most things are controlled. This comes with a 8-core, 16GB system, 8155 Snapdragon processor, and 128GB of storage inside it. So it's pretty quick, it's very fast. You can also get 5G on there and a whole bunch of other functionalities as well. On the dashboard here, you have vents underneath the screen. These are controlled digitally via the dashboard screen here. You can open the glove box with a button on the dash there. There's also a button on there to record your journey. You've got a contactless wireless charger in the middle. It does relatively fast wireless charging, maybe not as fast as a Huawei Ito, for example. You get a little gear change selector here that's a bit like a mouse, that's got leather covering on it. 2 cup holders, one ever so slightly smaller than the other. Not sure why that is. You do of course get a glove box under here with a USB-C fast charger and a normal USB and a 12V outlet. There's also space down here underneath this dash if you want to put a pair of shoes down there or something like that. Steering wheel wise, you have a 3-spoke design, quite simple, with touch pads on either side. You control your cruise control on the left side, you can control the microphone, the volume and so on the right side as well. There's also a sensor in the middle here that can read your face and therefore put the car into the settings corresponding with your identity. There's a digital screen, quite a slim one here along the back behind the steering wheel. That I believe is an 8.4-inch screen. That just gives you the essentials. That only gives you the essentials because you get a 14.7-inch heads-up display in front of you, and that's really, really effective because you get your speed in the middle most of the time. You can also get your sat-nav instructions on there and even change your music through the heads-up display. Above us we have a vast panoramic roof, probably about 1.1 meters I would say, end to end. It brings a lot of light into the cabin. At the same time, it blocks around 99% of all UV rays. Sound system wise, it comes kitted out with a pretty powerful Yamaha system. You get big speakers down here in the door, also here, a couple of tweeters, some more in the middle, none on top of the dashboard, which is a trend that seems to have happened these days. And of course you get more in the back and a subwoofer in the boot, so you know, really high-end sound system there. Okay, so here in the rear you can see that we have quite a lot of space, even with the driver's seat in the rearmost position. We've got plenty of room here. With it being a battery vehicle, of course, the floor is slightly higher, so you don't get full support under your thigh, but that's not really a criticism because it's the same in every battery car. You do get vents in the B-pillar and here in the middle, both individually adjustable, underneath which is a 5.7-inch screen that allows you to control quite a few functions. So you can control the temperature on your side of the car, you can control whether it's high or low, you can control the music as well that is being played. You can also turn on your heated seats and a couple of other functions in there as well. Down below you've got another fast charger USB slot, 60 watts, plus a normal USB. Now here in the middle, if I pull this armrest down, pretty meaty armrest, you can see there are 2 switches on the side here. They control the angle of the backrest, so I can move my backrest forward. So some people like to sit a bit more upright. Of course, if you like to be a bit more laid back, like me, you can put it in the rear position, and that's adjustable for this side and for this side. On the door, on that side, there are 2 switches that will allow you to move the front seat further forwards and further backwards to give you extra space if you want it. You've also got a pocket in here, by the way, and a rubber space that unfortunately isn't a wireless charging pad, which I would hope that it was, but never mind. You get, interestingly in this car, red seat belts, which is really quite sporty. They match the red stitching here on the Napa leather. So in our Polestar we had yellow, and in here we have red. It's up to you to decide whether you like that or not. As I said though, it's spacious, plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom. It feels quite luxurious, I would say, plenty of glass. This panoramic roof is excellent. The material choice is really, really good. These seats fold flat, as I said, so you can get more things into the boot. You've got netting on the back of the seats for storage. Overall, it's not a bad place to be. Okay, so while we're taking in these beautiful Beijing mountains, let's talk a little bit about the car. As I mentioned, it is a twin motor car, so one on the front, one on the rear. Both are 200 kilowatt motors. Combined, they produce 536 horsepower and 700 newton meters of torque, which is a lot of power. It's a lot of power, no doubt about it. That will enable the car to sprint from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, or 62 miles per hour, in 3.8 seconds, which is, I think, probably the fastest thing I've ever driven, and it absolutely feels like it. The acceleration, when you basically floor the throttle, is violent. You can feel every wheel scrambling to put some grip onto the floor. But it's really composed. It's really composed. As I mentioned, it is of course capable of all-wheel drive. It's also capable of permanent rear-wheel drive, so just using the rear motor, and it can also do variable all-wheel drive as and when necessary. There are different settings in the car, 7 different settings for different terrains, things like that. So it will be ready for, you know, Scandinavian winters, for example. It will have all the tools in the toolbox required to survive in those kinds of conditions. The battery that powers those motors is a 100 kilowatt hour battery, which is pretty sizable, up there with the largest current Neo battery. And you can actually, it's got the technology to enable 120 kilometers of charge in just 5 minutes. So it's got some super rapid charging abilities. So with that battery, you can do 732 kilometers on one charge, 435 miles. That is on the CLTC cycle, which is probably one of the most generous. So your real life mileage is probably going to be considerably less, maybe more like 350 or 300, something like that. We'd have to do a longer range test to confirm on that. But what I can say is that the handling experience is excellent. Obviously you can see I'm doing quite a lot of work up these mountain roads, really twisty. I've been giving it a few beans around here, and it's super capable. It's super capable. Now what I would say is, compared to the Polestar, and I did say that I would set the Polestar as the benchmark, the feel is not the same. It's definitely not on the same level as the Polestar in terms of steering feel, pedal feel, brake feel, but it does feel more than assured, particularly around corners. I mean, we talked about how big the wheels are, and with it being all-wheel drive, it's got grip for days. Now, to be fair, we have the best weather today. It is wonderful weather out here in the mountains, but at no point have I felt afraid that this car is unable to handle what's being thrown at it. I mean, it's gripping everything, and it's been tuned in Europe apparently, so it should be pretty appealing to European buyers. Whether it'll go to America or not, we'll have to find out. As I said, it comes with air suspension, so you get air suspension on all 4 corners. We put it into sport mode. It will probably firm that suspension up a little bit. So let's take a quick look actually at the settings. We'll go into the car mode here. I'll try not to crash into a concrete wall while I'm doing it. So driving, we have 3 different options for the regeneration level. We've got low, medium and high. We've also got a switch for one pedal driving, which is great. So I'll stick that on, and let's put it on high regeneration level. This should give us the optimum one pedal driving, and if I lift off, it brakes quite nicely into that corner for me. We have 7 drive modes. We've got comfort, eco, dynamic, snow, sand. Not sure who's going to take it on sand. I wouldn't. Off-road, which is actually turned off at the moment, presumably because it's maybe not available at the moment, and individual, which will give you more options. I'm curious whether we have do we have more steering feel? Let me go into driving mode. Let's see if we can edit this. Here we go. Okay, right. So in individual mode, we have the option of propulsion, which will stick on dynamic, suspension, which will stick on off-road, traction, comfort, or dynamic. Let's go for dynamic. Brakes, stick them on dynamic. Steering, give us dynamic. and climate, we'll leave it on standard because it's bloody hot today. So let's save and activate. Alright, one pedal system unavailable. Okay, so when you put it in individual mode, one pedal braking goes off, interestingly. It's probably more for eco, to be honest. But let's see how that steering feels. Let's just accelerate a little bit. Jeez, it feels fast. Terrifyingly fast. It's definitely picking up more than in the comfort mode. Got a really good hairpin bend here. Let's see how it goes. That was just 90 degree. Oh yes, it feels tight. It feels very tight. Jesus Christ. That acceleration is enormous. I would say the brakes still don't feel like the Polestars, not at all. Oh man, it's got super point and squirt. It's like instant torque all over. It requires so little pedal input to give you all of that 530 odd horsepower. Oh yes, I mean this is super exhilarating. What a corner this is. I feel right on the edge here. This livens all of your senses. The hairs are going up on my arm. It's crazy. You can hear the motors a little bit, but it's still like silence. Oh, it feels rock solid, I've got to say. I mean, there's no concern whatsoever for lack of grip. I don't really see much difference on the brakes, if I'm being totally honest there. But oh, this is so exciting. Right now, so what I want to do is a very quick 0 to 100 test, because we've got a nice bit of straight road here. I want to see how strong this acceleration is. So come to a dead stop. Okay, are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, sorry, hang on, rolling. 3, 2, 1. Oh god, I'm being pushed right back into my chair, and that is 100. Wow. was that even 3.8 seconds? It's insane. The car just like sinks back on its haunches and absolutely launches. Absolutely launches. That is probably the fastest car I've ever driven. Totally controlled. There was no scrambling around for grip. There was no change in direction. It was totally linear and it was straight on. What I would say is, and I have tried flooring it in the middle of a corner, is that while you do get a little bit of torque steer, you know, as the front motor's also trying to do some work, you get a little bit of understeer that comes off the back of that, but it's completely manageable, really controlled. At no point do you feel like it's too much for the car, you know. So I'd say it's been put together really quite well, and the handling is really strong. It feels as assured, I would say, as a Quattro, which means it'll be great for anybody who wants to take it out for a drive in the mountains, same as I am today. I specifically come to these exciting roads, and it's lived up to every expectation. It really has. It's violently fast, but not in a way that I would say is dangerous. And I'd say it's fast actually in every setting, even when it's just on rear wheel drive. It feels really quick. Now I don't know the weight of this car. I would say it's probably going to be around 2.3, maybe 2.2, 2.1 tons, something like that. In the same realm as perhaps a IM L7, I would say. Okay, so while I've extolled the virtues of this car as a sports car or a performance car, down to that acceleration and the really assured handling at high speed, I would also say that it's excellent as a GT, because if you take away the marketing spiel of shooting brake coupe, in reality this car is actually very much like a GT. It's a big, I suppose, 5-seater, because you've got 5 belts, but you know, let's call it a 4-seater. Really large, luxurious 4-seater with a luxurious interior, capable of doing long distances across the country. It really makes a great case for itself as a GT, because it's quiet, because of that electric drivetrain. It's got pace on demand when you need it, and also in the comfort setting, that air suspension is really, really comfortable. It soaks up absolutely everything. It's got kind of a lazy sort of lollopy ride when it's turned on. It feels a little bit like a water mattress, like a waterbed. Not quite as soft as a waterbed, but nevertheless really, really comfortable. You know, the steering can be light. The steering is light anyway because it's a Chinese car. All the controls are, you know, less hands-on. You're not quite as in the moment as you need to be to drive the Polestar 2. So if that's the kind of car that you're looking for, then I think this would be a really great proposition for that. Because I mean, I've had some fun today in the mountains, and now I'm on the way back on a cruise and taking the sort of the atmosphere and the scenery, and it's perfect. It's right in its element in this role. So don't think of this only as a sports car. Think of it as a GT for long distance, comfortable cruising with performance when you need it. In terms of the system, I will be honest, we've had a couple of issues with the system over the last 2 days. I think it's just a bug because I've driven one of these before and didn't have that issue. But we had an issue with the sat-nav where the GPS wasn't tracking where we were. The actual instructions were correct, but the GPS thought that we were still in the car park where we started. We had an issue with the time not matching up, and a couple of other little minor teething issues. I'm not sure if this car comes equipped with the 8155 Snapdragon processor that is now being rolled out across the Zeekr range as a free upgrade, by the way, which is a pretty good gesture from the Zeekr guys and girls. But yeah, I would say that's... We've also had an issue with the cruise control. So this car does come with adaptive cruise control, a kind of pilot assist, a bit like in the Polestar, and also lane keeping assist. And for some reason those options have all been greyed out and unavailable. So we've not been able to test those out, I'm afraid. It does take some getting used to. There's a few features that are kind of curious. So it does take getting used to having the motorized doors. So some people will press the button and then think that it takes a little bit too long to open, so they'll start trying to pull the door open themselves. It is something you have to get used to. Every now and then you'll open the door and it'll open a bit, and then eventually open the full way. So it's kind of a luxurious feature, but one that maybe has to be used quite a bit to get fully comfortable with it. So it's time to give the Zeekr 001 back, and to be honest, I think I'm going to miss it. I didn't really think I would. There was a couple of flaws at the start that I wasn't so sure about, but it's got multiple personalities, but it's not a disorder in this case. It can be super fast, high performance car, great handling when you want it to be, but it can also be a luxurious, relaxed cruiser to get from A to B on a really, in the most comfortable way possible. So for that reason, I can definitely recommend it. I mean, it's cost-wise 299,000 RMB for the single motor version with an ultra long life battery. That goes up to 386,000 RMB. That's about $57,000. So it's quite a lot of money, let's be honest. But I do think that it's justified, and in this market, that makes it exceptionally good value. So I would definitely recommend it if you want a car that can do many different things and do them all really, really well with loads of space. The Zeekr 001, don't think you can go wrong.